Republican Congressman-elect George Santos has finally responded to the New York Times reporting that fantastically outlined how he pretty much lied about so many aspects, just outright made up things on his resume that he ran on about his background, and they just weren't true at all. And now he's responded through a New York Post interview and admits to almost all of the reporting, admits to almost all of what was uncovered in this New York Times investigation. So we're going to take a look at this article. We have to read directly from the New York Post article because these quotes where he tries to wiggle himself out of the framing of an outright liar and say, oh, okay, yeah, I embellished some things. I apologize for that, but I'm still going to be a congressman. I'm not going to preemptively step down as there's a lot of pressure and all of this. So we'll look at that first in case you missed the build up to this. George Santos ran for Congress, won his district in New York that previously voted for Biden. So he helped to flip blue to red, in part helping the Republican Party to get a majority in the House. And he was getting some national attention for being, he was going to be the first non-incumbent, openly gay Republican to get elected. And that would have been a pretty big deal, or at least nationally into Congress. And that was garnering some national news. And then this came out and just engulfed him in scandal, as is seen here. So New York Post title, Liar Representative-elect George Santos admits fabricating key details of his bio. Long Island Representative-elect George Santos came clean to the Post on Monday, admitting that he lied on the campaign trail about his education and work experience, but insisting that the controversy won't deter him from serving out his 2-year term in Congress. So great, you get to get elected by depicting yourself one way. Then it gets revealed that that's not at all who you are, and you're still going to become a congressman. Wow. Quote, I'm not a criminal, Santos said at one point during his exclusive interview. This will not deter me from having good legislative success. I will be effective. I will be good. So the I'm not a criminal part has to do with a certain part of the reporting that he's not admitting to, which is that certain criminal charges were in Brazil against him. And he's saying that's not true. But when you show yourself to be so dishonest, we can't take your word on that at all. And then it lays out the New York Times' part in this. Next quote, my sins here are embellishing my resume. I'm sorry, Santos said Monday. Not embellishing, just completely making up huge aspects of it. Santos confessed he had never worked directly for Goldman Sachs and Citigroup, chalking that fib up to a poor choice of words. A poor choice of words. That's how he's framed. I misspoke. I didn't mean to say that I worked for Citigroup and Goldman Sachs. Instead, a company he worked for called Linkbridge, I guess, had dealings with Goldman Sachs and Citigroup. That's definitely the same thing, George Santos. Quote, I will be clearer about that. It was stated poorly, Santos said of the lie. He also admitted that he never graduated from any college, despite previously claiming to have received a degree from Baruch in 2010. So not only is he lying about going to Baruch specifically, but he's lying about getting a college degree at all. I didn't graduate from any institution of higher learning. I'm embarrassed and sorry for having embellished my resume. You know, over the last week or so that he's been working with his team to decide how they're going to respond to this. They had a whiteboard and were thinking of different words. Okay, manipulated details. No, that sounds too malicious. Ooh, embellished. Just say you embellished things instead of outright lied about them. I own up to that. We do stupid things in life. Santos elected to Congress, and we're about to get to one of the most wild parts of this. On November 8th, to represent the Long Island and Queens-based 3rd District, was also accused of lying about his family history, saying on his campaign website that his mother was Jewish and his grandparents escaped the Nazis during World War II. Santos now says that he's clearly Catholic, but claimed his grandmother told stories about being Jewish and later converting to Catholicism. Quote, I never claimed to be Jewish. I am Catholic because I learned my maternal family had a Jewish background, and I said I was, wait for it, Jew-ish. Not Jewish. So he claimed to be Jewish. He's saying, no. I said I was Jew, space, ish. Sorta. I was sort of Jewish. Or I was Jewish. That is absolutely bonkers. You are so dishonest, George Santos. To this day, you're still trying to lie about what you said and what you claimed. Again, campaign website said his mother was Jewish and his grandparents escaped the Nazis during World War II. Now he's saying, no. I just said that I had heard some stories about some Jewish background, so I said I was Jew, sorta. Wow. Santos, the first openly gay, and then it dives into an aspect of this that isn't that important to me, that he hadn't disclosed a previous marriage with a woman, despite being openly gay, but that happens. People get married to the opposite sex and then realize, or come out as gay and then move on, which is a part of a life. Next aspect, Santos also acknowledged being a deadbeat tenant in Sunnyside, Queens, where the Times reported he was ordered by a judge to pay more than $12,000 to a former landlord who claimed non-payment of several months of rent, as well as that Santos had tried to pass a check that bounced. And this had to do with medical struggles with his mother, which obviously I absolutely empathize with. Santos also admitted to lying when he claimed that he owned 13 different properties, saying he now resides at his sister's place in Huntington, but is looking to purchase his own place. So he said he owned 13 properties. In reality, he's living with his sister and is thinking about purchasing a property. Is that how it works now? I'm also thinking about solving world hunger. Can I say that I've solved world hunger? I'm thinking about purchasing property, thus I have 13 of them. George Santos does not own any properties, he said, talking about himself in the third person. Santos was defiant on one point, denying an allegation raised by the Times that he had an unspecified criminal charge filed against him in Brazil. I am not a criminal here, not here or in Brazil or in any jurisdiction in the world. Santos said absolutely not. That didn't happen. And then it continues on to talk about how he is so confident that he will continue forward and become a congressman in January, will not preemptively step down, which is so wild. The fact that you can run on a bunch of stuff, make a whole false depiction of who you are, and then before you even take over in the position that you ran for, it gets revealed that none of that was true, but you're still going to become a congressman. Holy smokes. Now here's an interview he did after this with WABC Radio, where he continues to try to frame this in such a dishonest way.
I'm not a criminal, not here, not abroad, in any jurisdiction in the world have I ever committed any crimes. To get down to the nitty and gritty, I'm not a fraud. I'm not a criminal who defrauded the entire country and made up this fictional character and ran for Congress.
No, you are. I mean, that's exactly what you did, right?
I've been around a long time. I mean, a lot of people know me. They know who I am. They've done business dealings with me. I'm not going to make excuses for this, but a lot of people overstate in their resumes or twist a little bit or ingratiate themselves. I'm not saying I'm not guilty of that. I'm not a criminal. Not here.
So I'm not going to make excuses, but a lot of people do it. So no, honestly, that's not true. A lot of people don't run for public office and create a resume that is just completely fabricated. Not the whole thing. I'm sure there's parts of it that were true, but so many key aspects of it, which make the whole resume just completely dishonest and filled with lies. That is just you lying. That's not you embellishing. Again, the example that comes to mind when people say embellish is, I worked 8 years somewhere, and I said I worked a decade. Okay, I should have been more specific, but a decade sounded nicer. You made up places you worked, made up things about your family past, made up a college degree you got. That is so beyond what he's trying to make it out to be. A Republican got asked on CNN about this, and I very much agreed with his response.
Honestly, if he had in a shred of self-integrity, he would bow out because he made up a whole story, sold it to the voters, and he got elected. And so if he really meant what he said in his interviews today, he would resign and then run on his actual resume and see what the voters had to say at that point. I mean, that would be sort of the honest and honorable way to handle it. He's obviously not going to do that. I mean, you don't want to play golf or cards with this guy. I do think you want to see this guy put before the ethics committee. It strikes me that he may have financial disclosure issues. And it also has the smell, the whiff of other shoes that are about to drop. I don't know anything, and we've got reporters working on it, but you just get the feeling, even after all we learned today, there could be more. So, look, he's obviously not an honorable person. I doubt he resigns. And if the voters get a chance to deal with it in 2 years, I'm sure they will.
Yeah, reporters are looking at everything.
Yeah, to the last point he made, now that this has broken, every single major media organization is going to have people on this diving into even more specific aspects of his history. And so if there is anything else out there, it's going to get uncovered, and it's going to be wild to see, because I'm very curious about the criminal aspect of this, because the New York Times wouldn't have just baselessly slapped that on at the end or whatever, thrown it in the article for no reason. And obviously he's going to deny that one as hard as he can, because that more significantly completely, well, all of this should, but that completely rules you out as someone who should be in Congress. I think outright lying about your entire history should as well, but he doesn't agree with me, and we'll see how it all goes. Hopefully he'll get pressured into resigning, because again, you can't run on a resume and a background that just wasn't true and then still take over in the position that you were running for. That's just completely backwards.